Hello and welcome to May 1st. This is also known as May Day, International Workers' Day. All around the world, it is being celebrated. And here in this country, in the United States, guess what we're also celebrating? It's called Loyalty Day. So show your loyalty today. Anyway, I got a great guest on the show today. Blacklite District is also known as Kyle Pfeiffer, but Blacklite District is really popular through the Minecraft games, and that's how a lot of his music has been distributed. So we talk a little bit about that, and probably the first person I've ever met from South Dakota, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Never been there, but it's very interesting. We have some good stuff to talk about there, and hope you're enjoying spring because it's springtime. So enjoy. Here's our talk. You doing a lot of traveling lately? I noticed on your site that you are pretty active that way and pretty much
Yeah,
traveling all over.
the last couple years, I haven't done a real tour in 3 years now, since really right at the start of like the COVID thing and all that. But I still travel. I live in the Black Hills of South Dakota, kind of up by Sturgis and such,
Oh
if you've
yeah.
heard of that. So yeah, I'm in a little town called Spearfish, about 10 minutes from Sturgis. So I go, I'll go to Nashville. I record with my producer down there, go places, shoot videos and such like that. So I haven't done as much as I used to, but I'm definitely excited. A week from yesterday, the tour starts. So I'm excited.
Sweet. Are you getting around by car pretty much, or are you doing any flying?
No, it's all road traveling typically, but again, like going on this tour, I'll have, five other people, the band members, a couple crew guys. So there's always so much stuff and equipment that
Yeah.
it's almost easier to just drive, so we try to keep the drive small. I think on this tour, because I'm only going out for about 2.5 weeks, so I think the longest drive in there is like 4, maybe 5 hours one day, but really going to and coming home will be the longest.
Yeah, it's great though traveling the country and you see all these nooks and crannies that you just don't even think about most of the time.
Definitely. Like, even something as simple as like finding a restaurant or even a fast food place like that. They like I'm just going to use White Castle as an example. But like when I first kind of discovered that in certain states, every time I'd travel back that way, I'd have to stop there or at this place when I'm on this part of the country. So yeah, but you know what I mean, right? Like just finding cool little things out there. It's really fun for sure.
Yeah, those mom and pop places down here in the South, it's like gas station food is amazing. If you go through Georgia, Alabama into Florida, it's just wow. It's like greatest burgers ever. It's you go all over the place. We got Crystal down here, and I know they got to White Castle up. I grew up in Ohio, but I don't remember White Castle being in Cleveland.
Okay, so where are you at then?
I've been living in Atlanta for decades, many,
Oh
many years.
wow. Okay. Okay. Yeah, no, I used to about a decade ago when I got my first like record deal and management deal, I moved to Orlando. And driving from here, we always went right through Atlanta and stayed there, and I've played there a couple times. So it's been a while, but I'm excited to come back down there hopefully one of these days.
A lot of great venues. It's exploded because there's so many cities that are being created and they got their own amphitheaters. So the whole metro area is like 13 huge counties. So there's so many places you could play here.
Oh yeah. I think I played at a place called maybe the Masquerade. Does that sound right?
Oh, yes, yes.
It was a
Yeah.
big night. I think I was on a tour with a band called Saving Abel, if you're familiar with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my first tours. And I remember on that tour, like, we would go where one show would be like in a small, like 300 seat club. And then you'd be in like random North Dakota somewhere playing in an arena. So it was always like you never knew what it was going to be. And they were like, oh, Atlanta's going to be awesome. This venue is cool. And it was a night I just still never forgot, just because of at the time, it was kind of my first time really getting in the business, going on these tours. And to see some of those crowds was just like when you're a 15-year-old kid growing up, like imagining what all this could be like someday, maybe it's not exactly that, but you start to see little like pieces of the puzzle where it's like, oh, you know what I mean? Kind of
Oh
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's surreal. And you get out there and you just see all these different crowds and and going throughout the whole country. It just you see the differences and people really into what you created.
yeah, for sure. And I guess for me, as Blacklite District, it's been really cool to connect with, a big, I'd say 80, 90% of my like online audience are these young teenagers from all over the world who have kind of found my music through these Minecraft videos that I've done. I have a partner basically who has his own channel and he creates these amazing animations. And I think we've done 13, 14 songs over the last 5 years. But I'm telling you, man, those things have literally launched my career. Hundreds of millions of streams have been generated from it, the fan base. So I guess I just look at myself like I've had a little bit of like radio success and stuff like that, but I wouldn't consider myself like in that scene, so to speak. So I kind of feel like I have the best of both worlds in the sense that I can play music that I'm influenced by, from Zeppelin and Black Sabbath to Metallica and all this kind of stuff, but have kind of the modern production and kind of some of that new age stuff in there. So then I'll make it quick,
Oh
but
yeah.
we were talking with my producer and we thought the coolest thing about this is my audience being these young teenagers. They've kind of grown up in a world where hip hop and pop and that kind of thing is like the kind of pop culture thing, I guess, whereas like maybe even you and I growing up, we probably heard a lot of rock riffs and this and that. So it's cool in the sense that me making a hard rock album to these young kids, they might hear it as like, whoa, what's that? That's like a little different. Whereas, you know what I'm saying? Like you and I, that's just another
Yeah.
rock riff. But because it's kind of switched so much, it's just cool to see that and seeing young kids discovering rock music and guitar. And I just love to see that.
Yeah, yeah, there is still hope for the future generation because yeah, these kids, I have a 25-year-old and just discovering like stuff from the 70s. Like I never even thought because she was raised on hip hop and was into Kanye for a long time and all these other things. Like, oh, this is disappointing. But like now it's kind of coming around and then discovering your stuff through Minecraft. So was it the single Cold as Ice, Your Cold as Ice?
Yep, yep. So that was kind of the first video we did. And even for example, that Minecraft video, and again, it's basically a music video to the song, just with all Minecraft storyline stuff going on. But that video by itself has 75 million views on YouTube. And in the industry today, the 75 million stream mark is what's considered a gold record. So in terms of viewership, I mean, that's basically a gold single, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so again, it's just kind of cool that instead of being on the radio for 20, 30 years, like let's say like an AC/DC, where it comes out, it's popular, it's on the radio still to this day, it kind of created, this legendary status and generations of fans that continue to grow with them. So the fact that in my situation, I don't have access to radio like that, or nor do maybe people listen as much as they once did. So I feel like I can take like the Minecraft thing or YouTube or just using all of these different kind of niche fan bases, for lack of a better term, and using those to we just put out a Cold as Ice XL, which is
Yeah.
basically like a kind of a beefed up version of the song, which is 6, 7 years old now. But again, it's being released as if it's brand new, so the older fans of mine know it, and then we're finding new listeners. And so to me, that's almost kind of like the way of starting that process of hopefully one day achieving some sort of legendary status with the song, because we don't have radio there to just drive it for 30 years. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you have to do this, like doing this remix, this new mix, and this is going to be part of your new album you're releasing this summer in 2023.
Yes, sir. Yep. So
Cool.
basically, long story short was I have my first two albums. I have a self-titled album, and then I have an album called You're Welcome. Both of them were kind of like what I call like my generation one songs that had all these viral moments, these Minecraft videos, blah, blah, blah. But I basically made them just as a, up and coming artist in my basement here, programming drums, programming bass, doing all this kind of stuff. So I wanted to get these songs with my real band members to put the soul in it, the real
Yeah.
drums, the real playing, because that stuff does make such a difference. And but yeah, to just so basically I took the biggest 7 songs from each album and I'm doing these XL albums, as I call them. And yeah, here we are.
So where does the name Blacklite District come from? That's your stage name. We all know you're Kyle, but
Really what it was again, 15, 16 years old in the basement here jamming with local friends, trying to come up with a cool band name. And occasionally you'd get a serious one once in a while, but I kept thinking of like, oh, again, being a 15-year-old kid, oh, the red light district, how cool, thinking of
yeah,
Amsterdam and this guy. And my friend, we grew up on Black Sabbath and all this kind of stuff. He's like, dude, that's a cool name, but make it metal and call it Black Light. And it was
nice.
literally as simple as that. There's no crazy meaning. It was just the name we picked at 16 years old. And I happened to have some success, 5, 6, 7 years ago. And here we are, basically.
Yeah, Ozzy was huge. I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, and yeah, Ozzy, Black Sabbath, then going over to AC/DC and all these other acts. It was just huge, huge. I mean, in my high school, it was like you weren't really that cool if you were into Journey. And that was like, those straight-laced preppy kids were into Journey.
Right.
But Ozzy was like it. And I remember the day Randy Rhoads died. It was like there were some kids who were really in serious mourning.
Wow. See, that fascinates me so much because when I was a young kid, 10, 11, 12, like when I first got into music, it was because of Ozzy. So I got every Sabbath album, every Ozzy album. I'd listen to him front to back. And then I got into Randy Rhoads right away and obsessed with guitar. And that kind of took me down the whole guitar path. But man, I used to always anyone who was because I was born in 1990, so I was not around for Randy Rhoads and all that. So, but 10 some years ago, I would always ask anyone who was around back then, just what was it like? Did you hear when he passed away? Like, what was the news?
Yeah.
So just the fact that you tell me that, I mean, it just intrigues me, this kind of stuff. I'm so fascinated by the history.
Oh yeah, yeah, it was massive. And then the whole thing of biting off the heads of doves and things like that. There was just all these rumors and people were just like fascinated with Ozzy. He was just huge in the early 80s. So, but when you were born, we were kind of getting out of that whole big hair band kind of thing. I mean, Bon Jovi's great and everything, but it was like that was starting to fade. Warrant with Cherry Pie and all that
Right.
stuff. And then, grunge came in, and that's, as like when you were a toddler, that was like really huge. And I really loved it because it was like really organized, hard music. And I never heard anything like that before coming out of Seattle. That was a
Right.
massive, I love the 90s.
So would you say that like when grunge took over, do you think it was bigger than the whole 80s scene, or did the 80s scene just kind of fizzle out by the end? I know that kind of happened, but like peak hair metal scene, was that as big as grunge? Were they the same? Was grunge bigger? What do you think?
I think grunge was bigger. I
Bigger.
really do. Yeah. And then, of course, the media landscape really started changing when we got to the late 90s and going into the internet age. So
Right.
that really changed the game a lot. But comparing the 90s grunge to the 80s big hair bands, I would say grunge really did it, really took off, and it really did. I mean, Pearl Jam was just amazing and broke through and sold so many CDs at that time.
Oh yeah, my wife is obsessed with Pearl Jam. I mean, everything you can think of. I took her to see him a few years ago, but yeah, no, that's so cool. But then again, thinking about the 80s and the 90s compared to today's rock music is almost non-existent in pop culture compared to back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
And especially like when it comes to radio and again kind of the mainstream thing, which is why I find it so like inspiring when I'm doing these Minecraft videos and finding these young kids. I keep going back to that, but
It's
that's the
crazy.
kind of thing, these
Yeah.
12, 13-year-old kids that are discovering this music, even if it is because of the Minecraft video, they're still getting hooked onto the song. And to me, that's just like, wow, the future does look bright in that sense that people can go find what's right for them. Sure, maybe it'll never be A-list, Taylor Swift level, but even at my doing my first 10 years, I'm happy I get to make a great living. I have a real fan base. I mean, I'm happy with it. I mean, I always strive for more and have a lot more work to do, but the
Yeah.
fact that I have what I have right now, I just try to be humble and grateful even for that.
Yeah, I checked out that new video. That's really cool.
Oh,
Cold as ice. You're cold as ice, not foreigners.
no,
Uh,
yeah, for sure, for
nobody
sure.
nobody has any problem. And with song titles, like Just the Way You Are. I mean, those titles have been used over and over, but yours is unique, and you have a very unique video. It's Clinton Cunahan is the director of that one.
Yep, Hunanan is how you say it.
Cunanan.
But yeah, I've done shit, I don't know, maybe we've done multiple videos over the years. And again, he's the singer of a band called Another Lost Year, who I toured with a lot back in the day. So it's just kind of, like finding these relationships. You meet people on the road who become friends. And now he
Yeah.
works with me. He's going to be playing bass for me on this tour. He used to tour manage my tours. He literally films everything. He's doing a documentary. I mean, that guy's a
Mm,
workaholic, man. And so yeah,
good.
he always makes us look like $1 million.
Cool. I'll probably have so much video to make a really good documentary one day. You never know. It's fascinating, and those things do get a lot of traction as well. A documentary that really came to mind is this band called Sparks. I don't know if you've ever seen that
No, I
documentary.
haven't.
Sparks is this band. And they've been around. They put out like 40 albums. I mean, they're constantly out there. These guys in their 70s now, but they never made it into the mainstream. And they did a really good documentary called This Is Sparks, and it's been on Netflix now for a while. And I actually saw them at a venue here called the Eastern. It's very different kind of music.
I don't mean to be rude and grab my phone, but I want to write that down. So
This
it's
is
this is
Sparks.
Sparks. Sparks or Z?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Check
Okay.
out that band. It's these two brothers who grew up in California, and very different, eclectic kind of stuff. Just a massive catalog. They're very, very quick. But
And you said they never really had that kind of mainstream moment.
no, they were on Dick Clark's American Bandstand. If you remember that kind of show,
Oh
it's
yeah.
they got clips all over online. But that was the big show back then, going through the 70s. Actually, probably started in the early 60s.
Well, I
It
always
went,
hear about like the Beatles and stuff like that,
yeah,
on there.
yeah. But Dick Clark's American Bandstand, and he was really trying to push them and everything. It never really caught on. Very big overseas. They love him over there in Germany and places like that.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, my girlfriend and I, we went to their show last year at this venue, and just very different. Yeah, check out their clips. It's way different from what you're producing.
Right. Was there a lot of people there? Decent amount of people or
Oh yeah, they got a tight fan base, and we saw them after the show. They talked to us for just a little bit. We waited outside, and some people were just like mesmerized. It was like, oh, they're kind of getting emotional and losing it. Like, you changed my life, this kind of thing.
wow.
Yeah,
That's incredible, though, isn't it? Like the
yeah,
fact that a group like that, has the kind of even historical significance of like being on American Bandstand or whatever the case may be. But there again, even not having that necessarily mainstream moment, but the fact that all these decades later, like you said, what a catalog, I'm sure, of all those years. And those hardcore fans that never cared if it was mainstream or not because they found it. It was their music, the fan base. And I guess that's how I look at myself in a way. And if I could ever be, lucky enough to have something like that happen,
yeah.
I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, people who are really dead. There's a personal connection there with your artistry, and if
Right.
you can get that, and it's just like you changed people's lives in a way they relate to things, and you've made memories for them. I think that's the biggest gift as an artist you can be, and I've seen it. So, I
That's
mean that.
so crazy. That's so crazy you say that, is because I tell people that any interview I do like this, I'll tell them because, I do have, 500 million with a B streams, like all this crazy stuff. And the messages and letters, literal fan mail I get from these fans who will say things like, oh, you saved my life, or this
Yeah,
music got me out of this depression I was in, or whatever the case is. I've just seen that so many times that to me, that means more than any money or fame is the connection that art has with that listener because it means something to them. And to me, I don't think there's any bigger compliment you could get than someone connecting with you like that.
so true. It's so true. Yeah. So your upbringing is pretty interesting. You've been around quite a bit in your young life. And where were you originally born? I was reading that it was Indiana.
Yep. Basically, suburban Chicago, right on the northwest border of Indiana and Illinois, a little town called Griffith, about 10 miles from Gary.
Oh, okay. I know
Michael
Gary.
Jackson's from there. I think it was the murder capital of the world at one time, but yeah, so I kind of lived with my grandparents there. They were always from the Black Hills of South Dakota up here. Um, so I kind of always lived with my grandparents, and I moved up to South Dakota when I was 7, 8 years old. And my mom passed away from an overdose when I was, in the nine age range there. And about a year after
Wow.
that is kind of when I started discovering the music. And that was when I needed an escape. You know what I'm saying? When it was, again, at that young age, going through a traumatic event like that, I needed some sort of escape. And Ozzy Osbourne's No More Tears, the song
Yeah. Love it.
specifically, was what did it,
Yeah.
man. Ever since that day, it started
I
an
love
obsession,
that.
and 20 years later, I'm still as obsessed as ever.
Yeah, there's something about out of that entire catalog, that single, and I'm sure the whole album is amazing.
I love
But
the album.
yeah, wow. Yeah, and I remember it was endless on MTV. It was just constantly getting play over there. So yeah, probably one of his best ones. It just
Yeah.
has this grit and this edge to it that just I love the guitar. Oh my gosh.
Oh my God, that guitar solo in there. Even some of the
Yeah,
slower stuff when just that like orchestral stuff comes in, incredible, man.
blows you
Incredible.
away. So
Oh,
you got drums when you were about 10. Your grandfather bought you a drum kit.
yeah, yeah. When we first moved up to South Dakota, my grandma had this Fleetwood Mac VHS tape of a concert they did called The Dance in
Yeah.
'97. And I just watched that thing over and over, hitting, coffee cans and anything I could. So finally, I got this little kid drum set, and I would just emulate what I saw them doing, forever, just night after night. And then I kind of had a small phase of about a year when I kind of lost interest in it, which is when the mom thing happened. And then Ozzy, about a year later, kind of brought me back into it. And it's been full force since that day.
Yeah, the dance. I remember that very, very well. That just
Yeah.
that it was constantly. I know it did very well on VHS. People were like gobbling, either renting or buying that like crazy. But now we got Stevie Nicks, so Fleetwood Mac's not getting back together anytime soon. They could if they wanted. I'm sure it would be a lot different. But
Right.
yeah, nice to
And
see
even
Stevie.
on that tape, The Dance, they perform a song called Silver Springs, which is a great classic of theirs. And I think I just read that clip, because Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham, they kind of lock eye. They make it real personal and stuff. That clip is actually going viral on TikTok right now. And shit, that's like 25 years ago. So that's what I was talking about earlier. Like, I just love how today there's just the possibilities are endless. A song you put out 10 years ago could blow up next year for the first time. Who
Yeah,
knows?
yeah,
So
and Stevie Nicks is still out there, hasn't come up with anything new in years and years, but they could still go out there and still, I mean, yeah, there's that connection again. It's that audience that just they want to hear it over and over. It's just that's how these legacy acts are. So if you can get yourself to that level and really travel in style, because they're not really like so much tours, they're more like one-off shows, like a Billy Joel
right.
Stevie Nicks show. It's like they fly in, they're at this level where it's like do the show, back out, back
Yeah.
home.
Right.
Must
Right.
be really nice.
Must be real nice, man. And I'm lucky if I get to take a shower before I have to go back to the venue for the day type thing. So, but
Yeah, they
again,
paid their dues.
exactly. And I keep that in mind too. That's why, even been doing this for a while now. I know along the way I'm paying dues as I go. So that's why even on those tough nights, if maybe not a lot of tickets got sold and it's a slow night, that is a bit of an ego check, or bring you back down to reality a little bit. But I kind of like those, because you need that sometimes to say, whoa, like, yes, things are going good, but that doesn't mean everything is always going to be good. So it's just stuff like that. I've had to kind of train myself over the years to, not have every expectation so high, but at the same time expecting the best. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Yeah, no question about that. So teaming up with Brett is one of your producer, Brett Hestla.
Yes,
Uh
sir. Yeah. So
yeah.
do you remember the band Creed?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Very
so
well.
he was actually their bass player for several years, in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And Brett himself, he's the singer of a band called Dark New Day and Virgo's Merlot from the late 90s and such. But yeah, he's a great producer. He has a couple multi-platinum hits. I've been kind of working on and off with him for a decade now. We really just got back together about a year ago. And but I credit him with playing a big part in the sound. And I love working with him for sure. Yep. He's a good
Yeah.
kid, man.
Yeah. And so, and in a lot of your material, you talk about, or at least sing to, about being into sobriety.
Yep.
I knew a guitarist. It was Joan Jett's guitarist, Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, Ricky Bird, and I've had him on this podcast, and that's his thing. He's very dedicated to sobriety. So it sounds like that you've been on that track as well.
I have for about a little over 2 years now. Well, I mentioned my mom passing away. So she died of a heroin overdose when I was 9 years old. And then when, 5 years ago or so, my father, he committed suicide
My
via a
goodness.
heroin overdose. So there was just always this kind of, it's a long story. I didn't know my
Oh, I'm
father
sure.
until later on in life. We
Mm.
we kind of met the last couple years, but yeah, and then all of a sudden there I was addicted to this fentanyl that I'm sure you hear
Oh,
about.
terrible. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, 100 times more potent than like heroin. And I mean, it's just next level stuff. So of course that had to be me. And oh man, like that was a real dark time in life. But basically, my son, he just turned 10 years old 2 days ago. But there I was, me as in early 30s, late 20s, whatever, looking at this kid when I remember 20 years ago being that kid, looking at
Yeah.
my mom, who then, you know what I mean? So I
Oh,
just
yeah.
started seeing all these kind of full circle moments with me on the wrong side of the coin, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I had been doing it for so long. I just said, I'm done with this shit. I had to go to rehab. I mean, it's been a journey for sure.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
I'm just so much happier now. You don't have to worry about all this bullshit, being dependent on a pill that you can't, it's no good, and I'm
Yeah.
proud of us being sober. I won't say I'm, you know, just completely stone and dry because that's not the case. I don't drink. I might, out at a show, I might smoke a little marijuana once in a while or something like that.
Yeah.
But aside from that, yeah, I mean, I don't drink or anything like that. So
Good. All in moderation is what it's about. But yeah, if you feel like it's going to set you on that path, then it's best to just simply stay away. If you feel you don't have that willpower, it's like, you know what? I'm not going to touch it again. You could be addicted to anything, and sugars, candies, those kind of things. It's like, it's like, no, I'm going to stay completely away from it. But if you can control it, a little bit of weed or whatever, it's, you
yeah.
know where you're at.
For sure. And that's even part of my program, like just there's so many different programs these days, and they're a little bit more accepting of certain things based on, again, drugs like fentanyl that are these kind of next level things. So I feel pretty confident in that. But yeah, I really enjoy it. In fact, yes, today I think is my 27 months. So I don't know how long that is. A
Awesome.
little over 2 years, but 2 years, three
Yeah.
months. But yeah,
Well,
it's
get to display a pin or something. It's like, hey, you got to be
yeah.
proud.
Right, for sure. I don't get so obsessed to where it's like, oh, I'm on day 836 today.
Yeah.
I do check in once in a while, but I don't obsess over it or nothing like that.
Good. And it's good. And it's better for creativity. And you really do. You got something to live for. You got something to say, and you're helping others. And there's nothing, it's like the top thing. It's like you're helping people through it. And whether there's people are out there having addictions or any kind of emotional issues, and your music could really help them out there. So that's a good thing to be on.
Definitely. Kind of going back to what I said a few minutes ago, when these kids, or even, the ones that are older that have had issues like that, again, if the music is there in any sort of therapy for them, like I feel like I've just achieved something that means something. To me, that's what it's all about, a real connection and it meaning something, I guess. And that
Yeah.
probably ties into all my, bullshit from growing up and this and that, but you know what I mean. So
Oh, totally, totally. So, being in South Dakota, what's there to do? Probably people say, "What's going on in South Dakota?"
I ended up a drunk, if that tells you anything. But
Is that a
they
big
always say, what
issue
are
up
you gonna
there?
do? Go to the
Yeah,
bar or chill at home? Um,
yeah,
it really is. My grandpa calls it God's country just because of the beautiful scenery. I mean,
sure.
I'm in a valley of, if you look out my front door where there's mountains everywhere, it really is beautiful. But yeah, it is that small town vibe where, there's not a lot going on. You're either going to go down to the bar or hang out with some friends. So again, there's Sturgis here. People can go see Mount Rushmore. There's a lot of hiking and, we go on a lot of walks and just nature outdoor stuff. Um, but yeah, I'm proud of the fact that I get to represent a small area like this on a national level. Even tonight, 6 hours from right now, the song I put out after Cold as Ice, these new XL versions, I have a song called The Struggle XL. And tonight that gets a big radio debut on Sirius XM Channel 5, The Pulse. I've been on Octane over the years, which is kind of the hard rock channel. But think about that. The Pulse, channel number 5,
Yeah.
literally the second biggest mainstream pop radio station in America. You know, they play like Taylor Swift and all the pop stars. So I guess the fact that an independent artist like me from South Dakota is going into rotation starting tonight, to me, that's a big victory right there in of itself, you know?
Cool. Cool. You're getting out there. Definitely. It's getting
Yeah.
around. So, and got
I
your
mean,
albums out there.
yeah, and I don't know how much more of a mainstream look you can get in terms of radio than again Sirius XM, which covers all of North America, and it being a mainstream pop channel. To me, that's pretty incredible, you know.
Oh,
So
yeah.
shit, I'll take it, you know.
Where can we find all your albums? Are they all through your website and you could order them? You got them on CD as a physical as well as digital download?
Yep, for CDs and such, you can just go to blacklightdistrict.net. If you want, you know, I sign all the CDs, so it's cool to send that out to the fans. And then, yeah, if you just want to stream it, it's on all the usual spots, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere you can find music, you'll find some Blacklight District out there.
Sweet, sweet. And you got your drummer. Have you known them a lot? Your drummer and your guitarist. Drummer is Graham Spillman, guitarist
Yeah,
Justin Sunland.
it's funny you bring that up because Graham and I have just parted ways this past week.
Oh
Um,
wow.
it's
Yeah.
just a bunch of drama bullshit. I mean, it wouldn't be a tour without all that kind of stuff. Basically, people get greedy and demand unrealistic sums of money. You know, a lot of I'm in a fortunate spot with my career, and but sometimes it just seems like, and I'm not saying he did, but it just can sometimes seem like people are taking advantage. And so I wanted it to work out. I tried everything I could, but I'll have a fill-in drummer, a gentleman by the name of Miles Claiborne. He's in a big band called Saul. From Iowa, I believe. So he'll be in filling in. Justin Sunderland, as you mentioned, my guitar player, he's been with me only about a year and a half right now, but he's a killer shredding guitarist. This kid from Wisconsin. I'm grateful to have him in there. And then my video guy, Clinton Cunanan, will be on bass, and we'll be going out and having a good time. And yes, the XL tour starts this Thursday, April 13th in Sioux Falls. And hey, if we come down by your area, please hit me up, or the publicist would love to have you out to a show anytime.
Oh, that would be great. I'm sure I've seen your stuff on YouTube. It's just really good stuff. I highly recommend it. And your website again is
Blacklightdistrict.net. That's
net. Yeah.
Lite, Blacklight Lite. So
Awesome.
sure.
Awesome. And it's great to hear this. And it's great to hear that you are making a difference for so many people. So, yeah, I totally appreciate it. And I appreciate you stopping by, saying hi, and telling us how the secret to the sauce is made for all this stuff.
Well, hey, I appreciate you for having me. I hope we get to do it again sometime. And for all the listeners out there, I did screw up and I was late. I don't ever want to keep you waiting again. So I owe you one. But well, thank you for having me. And I'd love to chat again in the future if you're ever down. So
Absolutely. Stay in touch.
absolutely, Bob. I appreciate you. Have a great day.
Take care. Have a good one.
All right,
Bye
bye-bye.
bye.